Well, good morning. My name is Ryan Sibray. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm very thankful to be with you today. A little bit about me. My wife Jessica and I are members of Muncie Unitarian Universalist Church, so normally we're there on a Sunday morning. And then we're both graduates of Methodist Theological School in Ohio. In seminary, I almost lost my faith, but I met my wife, so... My vocation is that of a spiritual care coordinator, or what's often called a chaplain. I oversee the chaplain team. I work for Stillwater Hospice, which is based out of Fort Wayne, but we cover 13 counties, and so we live and work in Grant County, Indiana. If you don't know what hospice care is, or if you've been told the wrong thing about hospice care, which is pretty common, it's care for people who are at end of life. It doesn't necessarily mean a person is dying tomorrow, but it's someone who will pass away in the near future, and part of that care is that a person gets spiritual care to reflect on where their life has gone and talk about life's big questions, or sometimes just visit and watch an episode of The Golden Girls. Now, when I tell people about the work that I do, I get one of two responses. People have one of these two ideas in their head. Some people think of me as sort of like a devout holy man that is tasked by God to make sure everybody's saved before they die. They might imagine me with an oversized Bible, slamming it on the table and delivering a sermon, taking confessions. That's not really what I do. The other response I get is people look at me kindly and they say some version of, wow, he must be a really special person. These people imagine me as Mr. Rogers for the dying. To be fair, I do sing songs sometimes, and I do enjoy a good sweater, but I'm a little more sarcastic. But if I'm being honest, I became a hospice chaplain not for any noble reason. See, I entered seminary as a Methodist pastor and a candidate for ordination. But when I graduated seminary, my own faith was in shambles. I had a lot more doubt than certainty, more questions than answers. My pre-seminary plan was to be a dynamic and effective pastor who embraced new and creative ways to help people engage with an ancient faith. My post-seminary faith was more, I think I still believe in God. Turns out that's something most churches want you to be a little more certain about. So my motivation to apply for a position as a hospice chaplain wasn't necessarily motivated by a sense of holy duty or because I'm an extra special person. I thought this might be a good way to pay my bills. I guess I thought, I know what a faith crisis is like. Maybe I can help others with theirs. But what I didn't expect was that I would love the work. I absolutely love the work of providing non-judgmental spiritual support to families and patients at the end of life. But I didn't expect the emotional toll that the work would take on me. At the end of the day, I was tired I had never experienced before. 7 p.m. bedtimes became my norm for a while. Jessica had recently moved to Indiana to be with me, and I'm thinking that could have been a bummer to be in a new place when you only know me and I'm asleep at 7. And so through this process, I felt like I needed something to root myself in. I was good at the work, but it sometimes felt like I was putting on my pastor costume again, and it didn't quite fit anymore. And so I started to explore the sacred texts of many faith traditions, to find the beautiful things that other cultures had recorded. Over the course of this journey, I found many perspectives offered compelling insights to life in this world. And one text that felt particularly relevant to my life and my work is a Buddhist teaching called the Five Remembrances. Zen priest Kun Franz describes the Five Remembrances as perfectly clear, compassionate, and concise, and he also says it's Buddhism at its very best. And so the Five Remembrances are: I am of the nature to grow old. There's no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Now, to someone who grew up and was immersed in the Christian faith, some of this seemed strange and new. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked it. It seemed harsh. Many of these concepts are found in the Christian Bible, but they aren't emphasized in the same way. To many Christian people, death is a scary reality that Jesus saves them from. It's not something to dwell on. Instead, it's a reality often spiritually bypassed with hymns like, "When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be." But the Five Remembrances are brutally honest. They don't sugarcoat the realities of life. They make us look it in the eye and deal with it. I am going to grow old. I'm not always going to be able to do the things that I do today. As someone in their late 30s, I'm starting to feel it. I love hiking, but if my hike has too many hills, I'm going to feel it the next day. My health won't be good forever. I'm mostly healthy, but now I have to take a couple prescription medications for my body to do all the things it's supposed to do in all the right ways. I am of the nature to die. Now, whatever you believe about the afterlife, death is something we will all experience. And as humans, we struggle with even small changes, don't we? We struggle with road construction or the closing of our favorite restaurant. The reality of death is much bigger to process. And I see every day that making peace with that truth can have a huge impact on how peacefully a person does pass. All things that are dear to me are impermanent. The people I love won't be around forever. People move away. Relationships that were once healthy become dysfunctional. Tragedy can strike, and those who we expected to grow old with are suddenly lost. And then finally, my actions are my only true belonging. The first 4 points of this teaching remind us much of life is outside of our control. But even in the midst of that, our actions are our only true belonging. How do I face these harsh realities of life? Am I angry and frustrated? Or do I root myself in kindness and compassion for others? Do I cynically accept that, well, that's just the way things are? Or do I embrace the realities of life's hardships and in the midst of that promote healing and justice? Instead of seeing impermanence as something to be escaped, can we accept it as a fact that informs the way we show up in the world? Vietnamese author, activist, and Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh wrote the following words about impermanence. We are often sad and suffer a lot when things change. But change and impermanence have a positive side. Thanks to impermanence, everything is possible. life itself is possible. If a grain of corn is not impermanent, it can never be transformed into a stalk of corn. If the stalk were not impermanent, it could never provide us with the ear of corn we eat. If your daughter is not impermanent, she cannot grow up and become a woman. Then your grandchildren would never manifest. So instead of complaining about impermanence, we should say, warm welcome and long live impermanence. We should be happy. When we can see the miracle of impermanence, our sadness and suffering will pass. Impermanence should be understood in the light of interbeing, because all things inter-are. They are consistently influencing one another. It is said that a butterfly's wings flapping on one side of the planet can affect the weather on the other side. Things cannot stay the same because they are influenced by everything that is not itself. This teaching, the Five Remembrances, it helps us accept the impermanence of the world. And that can actually be freeing. That thing causing you to suffer, it won't last forever. The person causing you harm, their impermanence prevents them from causing harm forever. Unjust leaders, they are also impermanent. Now, I spoke about my faith changing as I went through seminary and experienced life. I mourned that. I mourned that I went to study for a profession that I was no longer appropriate for. But looking back, I realized this was the work of becoming. I had to lose many things I held dear so I could embrace new things that were more true to who I am today. And it's possible that while I am now happy and content with how my life is, it will change more. And it will be good for me to accept that change and to embrace what is new. Now, from what I've seen in life, belief in permanence actually causes us to be stuck. When you discuss the ways in which this world needs to change or evolve into something new, a stuck person will say, well, that's just the way it is. But in the UU tradition, one of our values is the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. For this to occur, we need to embrace impermanence. We have to be honest that many of the systems that we take for granted must evolve or be replaced with something new. Our own perspectives need to expand. I think that the acceptance of impermanence is not just a self-help concept. It's not just for us to get through our personal hard times, but it's for us to do the work of justice in this world. It's for us to look at the world and ask who is vulnerable and who is forgotten, and how could it be different for them? As we embrace impermanence, we remember that our actions, being our only true belonging, and we work towards a more just world. Now, if you're like me, you've looked at this world and our country the last few years, and you've seen some things you would like to change. And I think for many of us, our eyes have been opened to the ways in which we're not always that beacon of truth and justice like we were taught in elementary history class. It's sobering to see how the past and present of our society have not been in line with that value of justice that we hold so dear. And we can remember that these unjust systems that oppress others are not permanent, and we can find hope in their impermanence. And so today, may we be moved by the wisdom present in the Five Remembrances. May we make peace with impermanence in our lives. May we also find joy that our struggles and our suffering are not forever. And finally, may we remember that our actions can matter in a world that is constantly changing. May we today tip the scales toward justice.